Hello everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you all had a very happy Christmas and a very happy New Year. Today we'll be discussing something kind of near and dear to my family and anybody in the gun world. Gaston Glock passed away right before the end of the Christmas season, and he will be dearly missed. Who is Gaston Glock? Gaston Glock is responsible for this little baby here. Clear. Gaston Glock is the inventor, founder, all-around genius behind what is the Glock 17. Now, I have my own personal opinions of the Glock and of the way it handles. I've never particularly cared for the weapon. As many may know, I'm a Smith & Wesson fan myself. Every firearm has its direct roots back to this designed weapon because the polymer frame was invented by Gaston Glock, and it is kind of the champion on the market right now. Most of your everyday carry firearms are polymer framed weapons. That's what we're going to get into today. Along with discussing the history of the Glock, we are going to discuss its notorious Smith & Wesson counterpart, what's now called the SVD. This was the Smith & Wesson Sigma. Right here is a second generation model. We'll get more into that in a moment. But first, I do want to wish the Gaston Glock's family my sympathies and my condolences for their loss. What he did for the gun world was revolutionary and will not be forgotten. With that said, we're moving on. What makes the Glock so phenomenal? The Glock was introduced, designed, and first came off of production shelves in 1982. And ever since then, it's had very little changes to it. It's damn near the same manufacturing style. It's had some cosmetic changes, but everything about it is for the most part the same since it came off the factory line. And as we get into the comparison and contrast to the Smith & Wesson Sigma, I'll go more into that. But the history of Glock started when Austria was looking for a replacement of their World War II standard P38. And as everybody knows, the P38s were steel framed, and they were looking for something to be lighter, more accurate. They wanted just something all around new. They were looking for something to stand out from everything else. A military trial, both involving SIG, a form of the Colt. Even Walther tried to do updates to their P38 that didn't really stand out too much. This won the contract, and it's made history ever since. This is the most common weapon you'll see in both concealed carry or, unfortunately, criminal use. It's also the third most popular military firearm in the world. I have my issues with it. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but I figured in honor of Gaston Glock, I would do a little video on it, comparing it to its Smith & Wesson inbred cousin. The one I have here is a Glock 17, traditional to a damn near original to what was originally designed. However, this is a Glock third generation. Not very many things were changed on it, but it does have one phenomenal feature on it that I find fascinating. Glock fans out there are going to hate me for this, but let's do a quick disassembly of it. As you can see, it disassembles pretty damn easy. But it's the barrel. The third gen barrel is a octagon style barrel, meaning it doesn't have land or grooves. It's got folds in it that make it a little bit more different. That's when you shoot it, you really can't tell a difference between it and and a land and groove typical barrel. I guess it was just to be something different. This particular generation came out in 1999, and which makes it for a great comparison for the Sigma Gen 2, because that also came out in 1999. With that said, let's talk about its inbred cousin, shall we? As you can see, reads empty. This is the Smith & Wesson S&W Sigma. This one's chambered in 40 caliber. This one's 9mm. We can disregard that because this episode is mostly just about the mechanical side rather than caliber versus caliber. There's a lot of similarities between this and the Glock. The Sigma was introduced into the world in 1993, and these guns were so similar that in 1997 Glock made a lawsuit against Smith & Wesson for this design because the guns are damn near identical mechanically. They look identical, actually to the point to where I can put the Glock slide on this. Now the trigger won't engage, and for the sake of everybody's sanity out there, I'm not going to do it. But they do. They come together pretty damn well. The lawsuit that happened in 1997 between Glock and Smith & Wesson, a lot of it is I couldn't find a lot of information on it. If you know anything about it in the comment section, please enter it, because I would love to know. Because on top of paying a wild sum, I'm assuming, because to this day they won't, the Wikipedia page nor Smith & Wesson will announce how much they paid. They made a lot of changes to the Sigma after 1997, in which it resulted in this being made, and it's still incredibly similar. So in 1999, when this generation Gen 2 Sigma came out, they no longer made in full size. Any version of the Sigma is going to, after 1999, will have a 4-inch barrel with a smaller grip. It's got this funky trigger. With that said, we're going to go into the compare and contrast side of this, because it's interesting to me. Getting into the frame of these two, I can't get over this, like, they're very similar. They're almost identical. Like I said, you can put the, you can almost interchange slides, almost. We'll get to that when I get to go to talk about the slides, but the biggest difference between the two is the trigger. You can see here, for the most part, they're all very similar. The striker fire system on the Sigma is a little more forward. On the Glock, it's a little more back. All around, they're very, I can't stress how similar they are. It's very freaky. But let's stress about the thing I like on the Glock. Pretty much the only thing I like about the Glock is the poundage of the trigger. It is a very light trigger pull. I mean, it is really that is maybe a 3 or 4 pound trigger pull. It is incredibly nice. It's incredibly sweet. My only disgruntlement about that is the fact that it doesn't reset itself. It's got a very 1911 style feel to it because of that. Trigger is not bad. On the Sigma, the trigger is spongy. It is very much like very much like shooting a double actioned revolver, spongy. But according to Smith & Wesson, this was a safety feature because they didn't want the gun going off too early. But to me, it just seems like one of those things to keep the copyright infringement from being a thing. As we look more at the Sigma, you can see too that the bar here does not have that slight canter, which is what keeps the Sigma Sigma slide from going on the Glock frame, but the Glock slide can go on the Sigma frame. Yet the trigger does not go off, and I believe it has something to do with that. That's the real difference here for the frames. If you look at the way the barrels are designed, also very identical. Obviously, as per usual, the Smith & Wesson is a little bit better machined. It's got more detail to it, but again, that could be just to keep the copyright infringement from being a problem. As you can see, currently this is a 4-inch barrel, this is a 4.5-inch barrel. Not much of a difference, but it's enough. Now onto the slides. The slides are, there's not much to say other than they are virtually identical. You got some difference here. You got your standard Smith & Wesson striker fire system type system here. The Glock's is a lot shorter reset, but that's also because it sits further back in the gun, so why waste the extra energy? One more thing I have to give Glock is the factory sights on the Glock are much better than that of the Sigma. These seem pretty basic, like they were thrown on there. These here look like they gave a damn, and it's actually not too bad. I kind of like the U-shape. For the rear sight, it helps your eyes stay focused a little better. I found when I shot it. Like, I can't stress that. All in all, I think that's a good key feature of the Glock. Between that and the trigger, they're great. Last and final thing here, I've got 2 magazines here. Though the Glock magazine looks cheaper, it's actually not, because it's steel reinforced underneath the polymer, as you can kind of see here through the bullet readings. it may look cheaper and it kind of feels cheaper too, and it kind of looks funky when you put it in the gun. So aesthetically, it looks like shit, but functionally, it's actually well designed. The Sigma magazine here, obviously you can see standard 40 Smith & Wesson. This is the factory mag. It's got the emblem here. It's got the bullet reader on the sides, and it's made out of metal. It's everything you love and like about a typical handgun of the late 80s, early 90s design. And I don't have a problem with it. It's actually, for one being 9mm, one being 45 or 44, 40, my bad. This is actually lighter than the Glock mag, but there's all kinds of reasons for that. This is extra polymer on it. The base is a little heavier, got a little thicker plastics. This is very thin. It's typical steel. It's typical folded steel, probably some A1011. Nothing too fancy here. Cheap and easy. And that's how I'll round out these two. They were both made to be cheap and easy guns. All right, so let me talk to you guys a little bit why I will still choose the Sigma over the Glock. And it's purely it's just what I'm used to. Again, I do not want to take away credit from Glock being what they are. Glock is one of the most trusted weapons in the law enforcement field, in the military field, in all of the fields relative. I mean, it's number 3 in the most used criminal guns too. Like, this is one of the best bang for your buck firearms you can get. Let's get down to the practicalities of it. Just the handling of it, to me is a little awkward. If you focus in here, when you look at the mag release and the slide release here, they're very hard. It's magazine empty, chamber empty, but it's very hard for my thumb, because I got these wide ass grips, to do that. And if I'm in a rush and I have to find that, to me that sounds like a problem. Same with the mag release. The mag release is a very small button, whereas on our Smithy boy here, the Sigma, it's much more simple for me to do that, and the mag release button is so much bigger and easier to get to for me. Again, I will never talk anybody down about what gun they carry, because as usual, it's all about what training you do. And if you want more training, please go reach out to our sponsors at USCCA. They're great people. They help you with everything from property and casualty insurance to actually getting training with your carry guns and your sidearm, your preferred method of sidearm. They have instructors in all 50 states. They are all across the nation. And as a gun enthusiast, I carry every day. I'm not as big of a gun enthusiast as some out there. I'm not Grand Thumb or Brandon Herrera, but working on that. But I do highly suggest you check them out. I will have a link in my bio giving you information on the legality side of what would happen if you got pulled over with your firearm and the proper ways to handle that type of situation. Once you get done with the video, please check out the link below. And while you're down there, please like and subscribe. I would love to keep doing these videos. I would like to keep the momentum we've got going on, and in order to do that, I need to get more firearms to continue making content for you guys. I love and appreciate everything you all are doing. Back to our program. When I compare the two, it's kind of a wash. Essentially, this one gains brownie points for me just because I am more used to the carry side or carry size of a firearm. For me, my big ass thumb here feels more comfortable in this than it does here for me. But again, everything is up to interpretation or in your comfort. And before we close out the show, I would like to thank, first of all, my uncle provided me with this gun. This was one of the first guns I ever shot as a child. Yeah, I'm that young. There were many great weekends spent with him on the range with this. There's a lot of nostalgia to this weapon. He was nice enough to give it to us and let me use it for this showing. And my relationship with this Glock is, this was my brother's preferred weapon. He used to carry SIGs all the time, but after going to the range with a buddy of his who carried a Glock, he quickly switched, which for him I can understand. He's got long, gangly fingers. He's an office boy. But he's got great taste because this is not the way he built it. Let me show you. He actually rebuilt this in a way it's a lot better. This is kind of his baby. He customized it. It's got a Swamp Fox sight. He ported the barrel, gave it that nice little gay pride barrel with a ported slide, and the barrel is ported. And I've shot it this way. I haven't shot it in this configuration yet. I shot it in this one, and I am curious to see how much better this made the weapon. I'm open to criticism, comments. If I glanced over something, if I misspoke on something, please leave it in the comment section. I'm learning as much as I get further into this. I am learning a little bit more about firearms. I'm learning more about different firearms that I didn't grow up with. My background is normally in antique firearms and rebuilding of them. I'm just now getting into the newer ARs and building my own AK. And with that said, please, as always, train with your weapons, stay strong, watch your six, and going into the new year, be nicer, okay?